Introducing the official Werx coffee in 3 bold flavors. Fog Navigator, the master of mornings, chocolate and apricot. Texas Pecan, Lone Star Luxury, pecan and cocoa. House Decaf, full flavor, no buzz, smoky dark chocolate. 3 bold new flavors now available at monkeywerxus.com/shop or scan the QR code on screen now.
All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. It's going to be your SITREP. It is around 11 a.m. Central Time, coming to you live from the great state of Texas in the Monkey Lounge. And we are going to be looking at some pretty interesting things going on around the world, but there are a lot of nukes being put into place all around Europe and into Belarus. And I'm telling you, I see no indication of anything being de-escalated. In fact, I see people just putting everything, this big chessboard, everything's getting moved around. Russia is, I don't think they're messing around here, folks. And I think that we continue to just kind of poke the bear. And, listen, I love our country. I do not like Russia. I don't like China. I despise China. But I will just say we are probably closer to World War III than most realize, because of the leadership in this country. They're just incompetent, and they are going to lead us right into war. Maybe they're planning the whole time, but eyes on this stuff. We're going to talk about a lot of it today. We're going to talk about the weather. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. So buckle up. Here goes the next 30 plus minutes. Are going to be quite the ride. So let's start it off over here. Let's get into Skyglass. As always, we are looking at, actually, this is nothing on the screen, but 47 air refuelers up. Yes, you heard me correctly. 47. That's a pretty big number. Last time we saw that kind of digits in terms of air refuelers was when the FAA basically lost comms, or whatever it was, their little hiccup in their software that sent a lot of fighters into the air. And so, again, probably a cyber attack, but nonetheless, I think today the reason we're seeing this large number is because I think there are a lot of fighters that are on the move to the interior of our country. If you get up here near, obviously you've got Jacksonville. I don't think they're moving stuff out of Pensacola personally, although we've got a ton of equipment there in terms of fighter assets. But it is probably up here near Pax River and in that general area, Norfolk. You got a hurricane off the coast here we're going to look at closer. I think it was a little late to turn, and I think it's made a lot of them right here on the eastern seaboard a little nervous, and therefore you're having to get fighters, out of the way and move. They usually take, anytime something like that's happening, they usually take the fighters and fly them to the interior of the country, or even out here into Texas. So you may see a big ramp up at the old Carswell or Barksdale. But that's probably why we're seeing what we're seeing. At least that's what I think it is, okay? So, again, 47 air refuelers, that'd be a lot of fighters, all right? Now, if we back this out and we look at just the sky in general, I've already pulled out the trainers. So there's about 70 Tex-2s and about 25 T-38 trainers that I've already taken out of this equation, and we're at 250 over the United States currently. All right, so that's kind of an average number in terms of military assets that are up and over the area. This aircraft that's out here, that's actually Algerian military. It looks to be descending. I think that's headed into D.C., but anyway, little Gitmo bird you see right here. Pay no attention. That's just a base commander coming out. That's his little private jet or airplane. It's not a jet. It's actually a BE-20, but that's his little private bird, okay? Okay, so let's take a look. As always, we'll start out in the watch list. Just note there are a pretty fair amount of survey planes up over the U.S., so we're going to pull those out, and then we'll kind of shrink that list down so we can look at everything that's up and in the air. But we got an E6 on the West Coast. We'll look at the Tacomos in just a minute. Also, couple intel birds there south of Tucson headed westbound. The Texas DOT is quite busy today. Down at the border, it looks like B-52 up north. And then we do have some C-17s kind of sprinkled in here. That Forge 78 leaving D.C. looks to be headed westbound. And then got just a regular, some P-8s that look to be headed out. Actually, it's that way. My camera is flip-flopped. Look to be headed west. They're probably leaving out of Jacksonville or Pax River as the storm approaches. Then these. Yeah, it's NSA, Mill Intel balloons over the United States. Look at them nicely spaced out. 4 of them up right now that you can see, high altitude. They are, I'm telling you, gathering every single bit of data. If you've seen what drones can do in terms of tracking every vehicle that goes by, these things are doing the same deal. They're tracking communications, asset moves, anything that you do. So, all right, German Intel balloons, they're doing the same thing, by the way, folks. And then we've got a Q4 Magma 10 way up north, headed towards Finland, it looks like. Out over that region, getting at that altitude, I can guarantee you they are getting eyes on some stuff in Russia. And then Forte 10 out over the Black Sea. And then these are little low altitude drones in Turkey. All right. Now, this is what the tankers look like this morning. I could see it starting. They were just getting airborne, and now we're up to 47. So nothing out over the West Coast. But I just wanted to share that with you as they started to get moving early this morning, and I think it has to do with the storm, okay? All right. And then this is going to be your TACAMO. Remember, take charge, move out. So what that stands for, it's a Navy E6, and it talks to your airborne command, or it's an airborne command center talking to your ICBMs on the subs primarily, okay? Notice it was out over the water, California. It's up north near kind of the northeast side of the house, and then down out over the Gulf of Mexico, which indicates that we've got assets in those regions, right? And I'm talking about U.S. subs off the West Coast, off the Gulf, and off the East Coast, which is good. All right, they're protecting us. That's what we want to see. All right, C-130s, again, East Coast centric. This is a little earlier, but you can see just getting airborne. And it's not a crazy number, but notice you've got a lot of movement out of Florida, out of South Florida, and then up into the East Coast. A couple of birds, and really far north. I don't see, that's actually Turkish military, and that's Canadian, and then that's going to be the Navy C-130. So with the C and V call sign, that's how we can tell what that belongs to. So, all right. And then over to Europe, just some transitions. I see Italian Air Force coming northbound back into Italy, looks on the descent. When you see the red triangle there underneath the icon, that's it's descending. And then notice the moves. You've got them over there into Bahrain, and then German Air Force up, as well as the Swedes. Okay, now let's talk C-17. Very light. This is current activity. So one out of Hawaii, in and out of Hickam, and then you've got a couple look to be just getting airborne here over the United States. Yeah, looks like it did a little drop off there at one of the ports down in Georgia. Then we get over to Europe. And just notice they seem to be stacking up in Germany, in and out of Germany. That seems to be the main area. So it's going to be probably Ramstein, if I had to guess, or one of the other bases there seem to be the two primaries. And then that one is a broken, probably coming out of Morocco. Remember, they got that big earthquake going, so there may be some aid going down there. And then it looks like one taking off out of Bahrain or Qatar, right? So, all right. Now, let's talk weather for a second. And just pay attention. Notice the activity off of, this is NOAA, by the way, okay? All right, notice where they are. Just notice they're off of the entire coast of California. What are they up to? Who knows, in the name of science. And then this, you expect it. We've got a hurricane out there, so they're out doing their thing, right? We've got the Teal aircraft, which are kind of the military arm of that are out flying in that as well. Lots and lots of flights. You expect that. Notice in a second, I'm going to show you what's missing, all right? Notice you see some flights up there near the Capitol. And, but let me just show you. This right here would be the NOAA flights. Now, this is within the last day, right? Last 24 hours. Did you see that on the NOAA screen that I grabbed? You did not. And that's because they wiped it. All right. So that tells you something. My guess, just looking at this right here, that's a P3, a NOAA P3. My guess is that this is probably going to be the hit area in terms of the hurricane, somewhere right around here, just based on that flight alone. But why would you take that flight out and wipe it? Okay. It doesn't make any sense to me. All right. Notice what else we don't see. You don't see any of these NOAA flights out, right? Even this is the only one that I grabbed, little turn. But these things should be at least, I mean, we should be able to see some activity of these where they travel to, but nothing's there. So, yeah. Listen, you don't wipe stuff out and take it away unless you're trying to hide something. I'm just going to point out the obvious, all right? Okay, let's get over here. Actually, let's do this. Before we do that, let's talk weather. All right, now, this was the area where we saw, I believe, the P3 doing its little weird flight pattern there. And just the other day when we talked, I said, man, they're talking about this thing turning north, like way out here. They expected it a couple days ago to actually turn north and start out to sea, not impacting anything. There was a little bit of risk up here. But I said, man, with the way the currents were currently going, I just couldn't see it. I felt like it was going to hold a bit longer. Notice this is kind of collapsed in here. We do have a low that's pushing off the eastern seaboard, which will keep that from coming in anywhere in here. It should, but depends how fast this moves. And this looks like that storm stuff and that wind direction is kind of feeding this thing now. So it currently, if we look at it from a strength perspective, they're showing it weak. It's going to weaken. But the last read was 948. We did that 2 days ago. It was at 948. So the pressure, the barometric pressure hasn't changed really much in terms of strengthening or weakening at this point. Now they're speculating it's going to drop down to a 2 and into a 1, and then it's just going to be a big rain event up the eastern seaboard. But I have a feeling, based on the way the wind is currently running, that this thing's going to come in a little closer than what they were originally expecting. I think they expected this thing to be way out here, out to sea, and there'd just be some big waves along the East Coast. But all right, there is that. And then let's get in a little closer. And I think this is Flashbang on the move because he's already inside the DC bubble. It's not really super big. And we'll look at his schedule in a minute. This is going to be, I want to say, air show stuff. There is a VIP in the mix on one of these that I caught. That's going to be more than likely. Yeah, here it is. That right there. I don't think that's him. Although he's supposed to go to Virginia. If he's going to Virginia and that is the box over him, then that's probably going to be the smallest TFR box I've ever seen over Flashbang, because he gets the big ones. I mean, that's every single time. So let's transition into that as we're talking about Flashbang, because this is where it's saying he's headed to McLean, Virginia. All right. So I don't know if that's tied to that one. Yeah, I didn't dig in too deep to see. That could be the yellow box. I don't really know. But again, it could be, it really could be Bob Marley going in there. So like I said, anytime you get the smaller TFRs, it typically is Bob Marley and not him. But that one's a little bigger than the Bob Marley ones, but it's in between the two. So anyway, Looks like he's moving, going to be departing there en route to McLean, Virginia. And then from there, he comes back to the Senior Living Center. All right. Okay. Let's start talking about this whole missile piece and the things that are going on that are, I think, causing a lot of this. Blinken okays attacks on Russia with U.S. missiles. What he basically said was, you know, it is totally up to Ukraine. They can do whatever they want to do. If they want to take the missiles we send them and fire them at Russia, then they can knock themselves out. And that's just me putting words in his mouth. But in essence, that's what he's done. Remember, these HIMARS, ATACMS, when we started actually talking about giving Ukraine these weapons, Russia said that was a red line. They said, yeah, you guys do that and it's going to be game on, okay? Now we've given them to them, and now we're telling them, you do whatever you want to do. If you want to fire those at Russia, knock yourself out. Here's that range up to 180 miles. I think it was 186 actually, but that just kind of gives you, I guess you got a tailwind. You may get a little extra carry out of that, but 186 miles is about 300 kilometers, I think, is what the range is on ATACMS. But nonetheless, this right here is, again, you're instigating, you're escalating issues rather than de-escalating. You know, and I continue to see us do that at every turn. All right. Now, you want to know why they don't have an election in Ukraine right now? Well, this is why right here. Nearly 80% of Ukrainians hold Zelensky responsible for the corruption, not to mention the amount of loss that's been going on in this war. He doesn't stand a chance if they have another election while this is all going on. So, like I said the other day, deep state is scrambling. This guy he's a deep state crony. He was appointed by them and put into power. And, you know, they can't afford to lose this guy right in the mix of all the other stuff. So what do? You freeze the election, right? Don't think that's not going to happen over here with whoever it is they decide to put up. I don't think this guy's going to run just based on intel that I've been given, but I think you're going to see him bow out with probably in the next 90 days. And we'll see. He does have quite the ego, so he may just decide he wants to try and ride that out. So, okay, speaking of corruption, U.S. is releasing $6 billion, that's right, with a B, $6 billion, 5 Iranians in a prisoner swap deal with Iran. So they're swapping prisoners, and they've given them $6 billion. They're going to free this up out of bank accounts that won't be sanctioned. Yeah. Remember, we don't negotiate with terrorists, all right? So evidently we do now, and this is why they continue to capture people, because they know we pay big bucks to get them out. And so you just set the precedents for everything going forward, whether it's Central America, South America, Iran, Iraq, wherever. If you're an American and you're abroad, you now have a price on your head if you're worth anything to the White House. And so this may have just been an excuse to give them $6 billion, really, and continue on funding their weapons program. So anyway, that's a data point for you, folks. All right. Here's one. We're going to have to keep an eye on the skies for this piece. U.S. Air Force receives its first new Compass Call electronic warfare plane. This is what it looks like. It's a G550, I believe it is, that's been outfitted. You can see how it's got that square box on the side. Pretty cool aircraft. The difference between this one and what it's replacing, which was the EC-130, is that the EC-130 had a operational ceiling of about 25,000 feet. This one has one at about 40,000 feet, and also it flies about 2 times the speed. So really cool aircraft, super, super nice, actually, Gulfstream. But yeah, it's a G550. EC-37 Bravo, and so we're going to keep our eyes on this one, and if we can start to capture the tail numbers and get them loaded into our system, then we'll be able to track them and see where they're headed, like the other Intel aircraft. All right, and yet another Bohica moment. The Biden administration, yes, I know I said the B word, transfers armored vehicles to the Palestinian Authority. And this is what we are giving them. Let me see if I can pull that down a little bit on the screen so it doesn't roll on me. But that's the M1296 Dragoon armored personnel carrier. And yeah, giving it to the folks up in the West Bank. And just wait to see where you see these things start to take shape in what is happening over there. Don't be surprised if you don't see one of these completely burned up and smoking on the ground by the Israelis, because that right there is, you want to talk about crossing the line. This is why people in the world don't like us. Okay. But I will tell you, this is also stabbing Israel right in the back by doing so. Don't forget also that we just trained a whole bunch of Palestinians in Jordan in terms of soldiers and everything else. All right. So that just happened about 6 months ago. Add to it. All right. Here's our cyber threat map for today. You can see, as always, we are just getting peppered across the United States. Now, again, legend is the red are attacks. The orange are infections and the white are spam. But you can see it is coming in hot and heavy from Europe, a little bit from China and around the world. This is going to be your NOTAM, Notice to Airmen, and that's the way I'm going to say it. And this is obviously it's a missile box right here. When you see really long, narrow like this, it's we're going to be doing some launching from Alaska, it looks like. And then, of course, these are all the other NOTAMs. You can notice just the normal stuff. Again, strange grid here. Don't know what that's all about. Makes you wonder if there's some kind of electronic stuff going on out here by the Canadians to try and keep this thing from coming in here. And then, of course, this, just all up the East Coast nonstop. This little weird box, this is going to be NOAA, who will come out and do their Hurricane Hunter stuff. Then we get over here, and it looks like just business as usual. Just got a lot of boxes going on in the area. All right. Most of these, the red and the orange, going to be mil exercise, mil ops. All right. NATO prepares for the biggest military exercise since the Cold War and close to Russia. So we've been talking about the movement of nukes, and this right here is really no different. This is why they're doing it, okay? But check this out. This is going to be preparing for the biggest live joint command exercise since the Cold War next year. All right, this starts out early next year, and assembling more than 40,000 troops. Kind of get into some of the other numbers here. It says here it'll start in the spring of next year and expected to involve between 500 and 700 air combat missions, more than 50 ships, and 41,000 soldiers. So going to be very large. It's grande. And yeah, this is why you see the nukes moving. So let's just talk a little bit about the nuke aspect of this as we... well, let's do one more because this is going to add to it, okay? Blinken okays attacks on Russia with U.S. missiles. We talked about that. Again, that is the thing that's stirring the pot for the area. But take a look here as well. This is a U.S. nuclear weapons in Europe. And it talks about how many are actually in Germany. It looks like 10 to 20. It's not a precise range because all of that's classified. But location-wise, where they are, really also classified, but this is, these are numbers that are pretty real. Okay, so 10 to 20 nukes in Germany. You got 22 of them in what looks to be the Netherlands. Another 10 to 20 in Belgium. We go down a little more, and it looks like 70 in Italy or in that region up here. And then over here, Turkey. We've got 50 nukes in Turkey. They're talking about actually moving those from here into Romania, which is a pretty big deal. All right. Now, this is the B-61 bomb. This is the weaponry we're talking about up here, what's being stored. It is a variable yield bomb designed for carriage by high-speed aircraft. So these are aircraft mounted. They're not missiles that can be launched out, but yet they are gravity bombs dropped from aircraft like F-16s or whatever. Okay. Now, the reason it's called a variable yield is because they can actually change the size of the warhead in there, okay? And so that's why you don't know really what you're dealing with, how big this thing could actually be. But that is what we are looking at in the region, all right? Then we get into this piece of it, Russia, because we have started moving nukes all over Europe. Russia has been moving their stuff around and adding to. Now, this is Kaliningrad. This is actually Russia, where you expect to see nukes there, okay? So they've got the yellow dots are weapon storage sites. But then we get over here and just notice that these are recent satellite images, and you can see that they have been actually upgrading and beefing up these areas. So there's one probably similar in nature. These are bunkers that they're storing these nukes in from the Russian side of the house. And then again, look, new roads, instrument landing systems constructed. So they are actually putting in a runway and a whole bunch of different things there. And again, this is Kaliningrad, which is a Russian territory, okay? So these are SSM vehicle sheds. So you can see they're building a lot of things. They're actually adding to, beefing up their current arsenal in the region. And then let's do this. Let me I'll just show you some of these other data points for you. This one, all right, was just spotted. It says at least 5 trains have been suspected of transporting Russian nuclear warheads or parts, components, equipment, etc. Recently arrived in Belarus. And so they're saying that 3 more trains are expected in October, November. But this is Belarus. We talk about this. This is why you see the R-135s and all of our intel aircraft looking very closely at this region, as well as the little red box there between Poland and Lithuania, because that's Kaliningrad. And so they are moving nukes into Belarus, which is not Russia. They're just pro-Russia, all right? And so, again, data point for you, but what we see is Russia starting to really beef up their assets in terms of just, baselining their structures, everything else, coming in, getting it all ready to go, and protecting them, putting them into underground bunkers, etc., adding to it, which would indicate they're adding more and more of their nuclear arsenal into those regions. And then the U.S., same thing. We're moving them in all around the region, and it's not good. And again, it is just another indicator that everybody is still really pushing in. Nobody is de-escalating, and it's just a matter of time. This is a powder keg, honestly. All right. Speaking of powder kegs, Poland to buy 486 HIMAR launchers from Lockheed. This, remember, we just talked the other day, the fact that they were already buying a bunch of other stuff. They're getting tanks and all kinds of different things from the United States, and it looks like they're just adding these to it. So the HIMARS, these are, they can do some damage. This is what we've given to Ukraine, which got, a lot of them got, smoked. But Poland wants them. 486 is not a small number. It's a lot of money, and that military industrial complex is it's just a machine, and that's where all the money is being made right now. It's why probably our economy hasn't completely tanked, because that military industrial complex is just kind of keeping the fire stoked, just barely, but it's keeping it. So yeah, 486 into Poland. Again, if you go back over to the map and look at where they're putting the nukes, they're right there. Belarus is on the border of Poland, and that's why they are doing that. Also because of the Wagner Group and everybody else in the region. Okay, let's take a quick look through the bases. We're just going to kick the tires. Not a lot of stuff going on. I will tell you, Biggs is pretty much nothing. Okay, not anything moving today. We go over to Dover, same thing. All 172s. I don't see anything big coming in. We'll roll on through to, this should be, let me make sure it is Ramstein, Germany. Notice we do have one 747 in coming out of Doha, and then we've got 777 out of Baltimore, Washington. That's going to be troops, more than likely. It's changed back to a camber outbound from there. And who are we looking at here? I think that is the French Air Force. So 2 French Air Force jets rolling into Ramstein, Germany. And this camber flight headed back to Kuwait. So it looks like a round trip from the camber aspect from Doha and back down to Kuwait. So Middle East round trip. And then we get over here, German Air Force slowing down a little bit, but I do find it interesting that they are coming out of Goose Bay. That is not Germany. So they're up in Canada. Right, here's RZ Poland, forward operating base. Let's get down and take a look at the board and see if I've got anything at all. I'm not seeing anything. So again, we've talked about this the last couple SITREPs is slowed down tremendously in and out of Europe, which tells me, based on Milley's comment, remember he's a deep state guy, that they've got about 30 to 45 days left until they're not going to have anything left in the game, so to speak, because winter's setting in, it gets brutally cold, and everybody just kind of stands down during that time. So at least that's what they think will happen. Remember, the United States wasn't getting the M1 Abrams in mass to the region until around late fall. So that'd be about now, but I'm seeing no indicator of anything flying in on aircraft. So they could be on rail going in, but I'm not seeing anything, honestly. This is my guess is that I think the deep state realized they're not going to make any grounds on this in Ukraine, and so they quit pushing everything in. Maybe we're now starting to build up our own arsenal. That'd be a hope, but I think everybody needs to be doing that if you plan on fighting a war. So, all right, it's going to be the Brits, and just notice they're rolling in and out of, where is that, Bulgaria? Let me just double check. Hammerfest, Finnmark, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Again, not really matching up. That one does match, but the rest of these aren't really matching up with the board. So, all right, let's move on. Okay, U.S. Transportation Command only got one up right now coming out of Bahrain, and that looks to be it. Actually, it's not it. Again, on the board, we've got one coming out of Bahrain, but I don't see it actually in the air. I see this one coming out of what looks to be Ramstein or, well, no, wait, let me see where that is coming out of, because RMS, yeah, Ramstein. All right, so I see that one coming out of Ramstein, but then I don't see anything else. That's coming out of Anchorage. So strange when they don't match on the board. All right, here's NATO on the board, but I don't see him in the air. Somewhere in Europe. And then this is Omni, again, serving many masters. Look to be coming out of Hawaii. And this one looks to be coming back again, bringing some Brits in from it could be bringing Brits in. It's coming out of Manchester to Toronto, probably bringing Canadians in. And National Cargo 747s, like I said, sky doesn't match the board, so we just take a look between the two, and you'll notice most of these are 747s, and they're going to be moving artillery around more than likely. All right. And then Western Global, Anchorage down to Los Angeles. Again, I think this is a staging ground, and they come in, they're bringing artillery in. And then this piece, this is going to be your immigrant machine, and I'm not seeing, not too much leaving the country. It looks like everything's interior of the country. So yet again, looks to be feeding probably the Amazon machine, if I had to guess. But we are definitely bringing them into our country. All right. I saved a little story for you at the end, and I can't go into great amount of detail based on the topic, but all I can say is it looks like, based on Zero Hedge, the CIA bribed analysts to change the lab leak conclusion, and this is coming from a senior level whistleblower. So, yeah, we'll just leave it at this and just putting it out there. All right. That's it, folks. Listen, stay frosty. Keep that powder dry for sure. And we'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. Check out the latest gear and products over at monkeywerxus.com.